Before we begin, a reminder that there is a worksheet to accompany this lesson. You can download it and use it to make notes and reflect on some of the questions as we move along. You can also share your responses in the comments section. Let's begin. From this list, identify the religions. What criteria did you use to sort the list? If you chose a religion believes in God, we immediately run into difficulties. Buddhism does not propose belief in God as the Abrahamic faiths, Christianity, Judaism and Islam tend to, and neither does Taoism. It would also seem to exclude Jedi, unless we broaden the idea of God to include some kind of ultimate reality. Even then, things get complicated. Buddhism includes traditions involving Buddhas, bodhisattvas, and other transcendent or celestial beings which, while not equivalent to God in the Abrahamic traditions, can occupy roles that might appear religious or even divine to someone looking at Buddhism from the outside. Before we get too caught up in the fine print though, the goal of this exercise was not to sort the list at all. It was to show that religion is one of those categories we presume we can easily identify until we actually try to. So what is a religion? Here is one definition. A religion is a way of understanding, describing, encountering, and organizing our life around what is considered ultimate or sacred. Notice the emphasis is on naming and organizing, and given that general rule, everything in our list can be classified as a religion. Another way of thinking about this is in terms of closed and open systems. Religion tends towards the closed end of the spectrum. It establishes certain boundaries around sacred texts, central beliefs and practices, and stories through which people understand reality. This doesn't mean that religions never change or that everyone within a religion believes the same thing. It simply means that religion creates a recognizable framework within which beliefs and practices operate. Spirituality tends toward the open end of the spectrum. Someone may have core beliefs and convictions, but the boundaries are often less clearly defined. New experiences, ideas, and understandings can be incorporated without necessarily conforming to an established system of belief. Notably, there tends to be no central authority whose teachings or interpretations a person feels obliged to accept. Of course, we're painting with broad brushstrokes here. Some who identify as religious can be remarkably open, while others who identify as spiritual can be surprisingly dogmatic and rigid. That's why this course invites you to always retain a sense of openness towards people, and not to prejudge anyone based on what others have done or on your own experience of religion. Here's something to think about. What is your story when it comes to religion? Previously, I spoke of my story of faith beginning when I was christened in the Anglican Church, yet it did not end there. When I was 9 years old, I got involved in an evangelical church where I heard about Jesus dying for my sins, and that led me to become a born-again Christian. And for 10 years, I was heavily involved in my church, preaching, teaching, leading the youth work, and eventually becoming a deacon. Over the course of this time, I felt more and more led to become a missionary and share the gospel with others. So I went to Bible college, where after 2 years of study, I left as an atheist. It might be surprising that someone so committed to their faith could lose it, but that is exactly what happened to me. However, 20 years later, I came back to a place of faith again, but it was very different from before. You see, during the course of my time as an atheist, I continued to explore the issue of religion, and especially what can and cannot be known about God. I even became a religious studies teacher in a high school, where I taught my students to do the same. During this time, what I learned is that there is no conclusive proof for God's existence that will convince everyone that God exists. I also learned that we can choose the religious beliefs we hold on to. Now some will tell you that's not possible, that there is only one truth you need to believe, and I know. I used to believe that, and I used to preach that. But during my time as an atheist, I learned to see the world differently. I especially learned to see God differently. Now that might be a strange thing to say when it comes to religion, as surely atheists are supposed to not believe in God. Well, technically that is true, as atheist means someone who does not believe in God or a God. Yet atheism actually served me by unravelling some of the inherited beliefs I held about God. It also challenged me to ask whether the God I had been taught to believe in was actually worthy of worship. And I even see this in the Bible. For example, we find God telling Israel through the prophet Isaiah that God hates their religion because it has become corrupt and self-serving. Listen to these words in Isaiah chapter 1. Your new moon feasts and your appointed festivals I hate with all my being. They have become a burden to me. I am weary of bearing them. When you spread out your hands in prayer, I hide my eyes from you. Even when you offer many prayers, I am not listening. Your hands are full of blood. Wash and make yourselves clean. Take your evil deeds out of my sight. Stop doing wrong. Learn to do right. Seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Take up the cause of the fatherless. Plead the case of the widow. These are powerful words, and they express values I suspect many atheists would readily affirm. Stop doing wrong. Seek justice. Defend the oppressed. Care for the vulnerable. Yet here, those things appear not as a rejection of religion from the outside, but as a critique of religion from within the biblical tradition itself. And not only that, by God. And that brings us back to the question at the heart of this video. Is God bigger than religion? Well, Isaiah certainly seems to think so. The God described by him is not bound to religious observance simply because it bears God's name. God stands outside that system, judges it, rejects it, and calls the people practicing it towards something greater. And that brings us back to the question of God. Who is God? Religions will describe God in ways that make sense within a particular system of belief, and within many traditions, one of the qualities attributed to God is infinity. God is understood as transcending the boundaries of ordinary human existence, and this creates an interesting problem. If God is infinite, how can God be contained within any one finite system of belief? Let's pause and recap where we have got to. Religions provide frameworks for understanding and organizing life around what is considered sacred or ultimate. We often inherit these religious frameworks and believe they are undeniably true. We can also examine and question these beliefs. If God is infinite, no finite religious system can fully contain or define God. Maybe this is why we are often invited to reflect on nature when it comes to knowing God and being in the presence of the sacred. Nature doesn't judge or distinguish between anybody. Anyone, anywhere in the world, no matter who they are or what they've done, can plant a seed, grow fruit, and enjoy a harvest. Nature doesn't say, you know the truth, therefore I'm going to grow fruit for you, and you don't, therefore I'm not. Nature simply provides, over and over again. That also seems to be alluding to something essential when it comes to God. When you're dealing with an infinite reality that is beyond our full comprehension, it becomes very difficult to say, I possess God's truth, and others don't, because none of us knows everything there is to know about God. All we can really do is point to the fruit, the evidence of what it looks like for someone to say they know God. For instance, does that make them more compassionate, patient, generous, more willing to listen, more concerned about suffering, more capable of living peacefully with those who are different from them? If it results in them being a loving, inclusive and healthy presence in the world, then perhaps we might say they know God. And that's not something I can prove to you. Ultimately, We each have to decide what understanding of God we're going to focus our lives around. It's also about choosing the kind of world we want to create together, and ultimately, the kind of world we want to leave for our children and their children. Here's something else. When we focus on the values of love and name this as what it means to know God, that does not exclude anyone. Whoever you are in the world, whatever your beliefs, we can all participate in showing love towards each other. In that sense, the infinite array of loving acts reflects the unbounded heart of God. And the thing is, I cannot prove that to be true. I just get to demonstrate it in my life. It is also the case that if my religion leads me to become an oppressive, divisive, and harmful presence in the world, then I have good reason to question whether it truly reflects the heart of God. And in that sense, God is bigger than religion. In the next lesson, we will explore the Christian claim that Jesus is the only way to know God and ask what that means for people of other faiths. If you'd like to explore these ideas in more depth, this course is accompanied by the book A Biblical Case for Religious Pluralism. You will find details on the worksheet or below.